Sometimes the greatest treasures we inherit aren't made of gold or stone. They're hidden in the dust of forgotten places, waiting for the right person to discover them. Ryan Thorne was a man barely hanging on. After years of failed jobs, a broken marriage, and a mountain of debt, he found himself standing on the courthouse steps at a county auction, clutching his last $30. He didn't even know why he raised his hand that morning, maybe desperation, maybe instinct. The auctioneer's gavel fell, and for the price of a cheap dinner, Ryan became the owner of an abandoned warehouse at the edge of town. The building was a ruin, cracked windows, rusted beams, and the scent of decay. But inside, beneath layers of silence and time, fate was waiting. When Ryan's flashlight beam cut through the darkness and landed on a door half buried in dust, he felt something shift in his chest. He pushed it open and froze. There, hidden from the world for decades, was a pristine workshop. Tools hung in perfect rows. Blueprints lay untouched on a drafting table. The air smelled faintly of oil and old wood. And carved above the main workbench in careful block letters were the words that stopped his heart cold: Michael Thorne's workshop. His father's name. The man who'd left when Ryan was 7. The man who died 10 years ago, or so he'd been told. Ryan stepped inside like he was entering a memory he didn't know he had. Every inch of the space was frozen in time, precise, deliberate, alive with the echo of work unfinished. His father's tools still hung like soldiers at attention, each one spotless, each one used with purpose. On the drafting table, a coffee mug sat glued to a ring of dust, beside blueprints dated 1998, his father's signature looping at the bottom, M. Thorne. Ryan's flashlight trembled in his hand. He'd grown up believing his father had abandoned him, believing his mother's story, that Michael Thorne cared more about machines than his own son. But this workshop whispered a different truth. He found journals filled with sketches, calculations, and notes about inventions designed not for profit but for people: water filters, solar panels, low-cost wheelchairs. And then, tucked beneath a corkboard, he found a photo: his father holding a baby wrapped in blue. Ryan. Smiling with a love pure and unguarded. On the back, in his father's handwriting, "Ryan, 3 months old, my greatest achievement." The words hit him like a storm. For the first time, Ryan wondered if he'd been wrong all these years. That night, under a single hanging bulb, he found a lockbox and a stack of envelopes tied with a decayed rubber band, each one addressed to him, never mailed. His father had been writing to him for 15 years, and no one had ever told him. He read until sunrise. Each letter was a confession, a conversation across time. His father had written about the day he left, how Ryan's mother had given him a choice: give up his work or leave. He'd chosen his principles and regretted it every day since. He wrote about the inventions he'd been building, how they could bring clean water and affordable energy to those who needed it most. His final letter, dated just before his death, said, "I've arranged everything so this workshop will find its way to you. I hope when you see it you'll understand. I hope you'll forgive me." As the morning light filled the warehouse, Ryan made a decision: he would finish what his father started. The next day he returned with coffee and resolve, determined to piece together the puzzle. Among the blueprints, he found designs for a desalination system, a machine capable of turning seawater into clean drinking water at a fraction of the cost of commercial systems. His father's handwriting detailed every equation, every failed test, every breakthrough. Michael Thorne hadn't been chasing wealth, he'd been chasing purpose. But beneath the inspiration, Ryan uncovered something darker: returned letters addressed to his mother, never opened. Notes filled with love and apology. His father had never stopped trying. His mother had never forgiven him. Caught between their truths, Ryan's anger burned not at one or the other, but at both, for letting pride and pain steal the years they could have shared. Under the workbench, Ryan found that same lockbox he'd seen in the letters. Its combination lock mocked him until he realized the code wasn't a date. It was a measurement from one of his father's blueprints. With a click, the lock opened, revealing documents, a USB drive, and one final envelope labeled. For Ryan, read this first. The letter inside began, "If you're reading this, you found your way here. Inside this box is the truth about what I was building and why it mattered more than anything except you." His father had spent 15 years perfecting a revolutionary desalination system, a device that could give clean water to millions. But he'd never patented it. He'd been afraid, corporations would bury the design or twist it for profit. The USB drive held every file, every schematic, every cost analysis. At the bottom of the box lay a stack of cash, $47,000. A note read, "For manufacturing the first prototypes, for doing what I couldn't." Ryan stared at the money, realizing his inheritance wasn't wealth, it was mission. That night he sat in the quiet warehouse, his father's words echoing in his mind. Choose purpose over comfort. He'd been given not just tools, but a second chance to become the man his father had hoped he'd be. Determined to uncover the full story, Ryan found his father's old lawyer, Kenneth Briggs, a retired man with kind eyes and a sharp mind. Kenneth revealed the missing piece. Michael had filed every patent through him to protect them from theft. Corporations had tried to buy the designs, Clearwater Solutions had once offered millions. But Michael refused. He feared they'd bury his life's work for profit. Kenneth handed Ryan the legal trust. Everything had been left to him. But days later, a letter arrived from another law firm claiming Kenneth might have stolen the patents. Betrayal clawed at Ryan's chest. Furious, he confronted Kenneth, who calmly handed him yet another letter written by Michael himself, titled "In Case of Distrust." It said, "If you doubt Kenneth, don't. He is the most honest man I've ever known. Trust him as I do." Ryan broke down. His father had prepared for even this moment. And in that instant, Ryan understood the burden of legacy. It wasn't just about carrying on the work. It was about learning when to trust, when to forgive, and when to lead. Together, Ryan and Kenneth began negotiating with Clearwater again, not for a sale, but a partnership. A licensing deal that would protect the mission and fund a nonprofit foundation, the Clean Water Initiative. Weeks turned into months as Ryan transformed the abandoned warehouse into a headquarters. He recruited a retired engineer, Bernard, and a community organizer, Patricia. The workshop remained untouched, a shrine to Michael's dedication, but the rest of the space buzzed with new life. Clearwater agreed to license the desalination patent, paying royalties directly to the foundation. Their goal: free clean water systems for communities in need. Then came the first challenge, a pilot installation in a small coastal village in Central America. Ryan and Bernard built the system from scratch, every component handcrafted using his father's blueprints. When they arrived, the villagers watched in cautious silence as the machine took shape. At sunrise, Ryan opened the valve. For a breathless moment, nothing happened. Then, a stream of clear water began to flow. The crowd erupted, children laughing, elders crying. Ryan filled a glass and handed it to the village leader, Rosa. She drank, smiled, and said, "It works." The words broke him. His father's dream, the dream that had cost him everything, had come to life. Ryan whispered to the empty sky, "We did it, Dad, together." News of the miracle spread like wildfire. Within weeks, humanitarian groups and environmental organizations reached out, eager to collaborate. Clearwater doubled their funding. The foundation expanded to Africa, Asia, and beyond. Every installation carried Michael Thorne's blueprints and Ryan's improvements, his father's mind, his son's hands. The workshop became a classroom where volunteers learned to assemble systems, each one destined to bring water where there was none. Ryan's mother, once bitter, visited the warehouse again. Watching the hum of activity, tears filled her eyes. "He wasn't choosing work over love," she said softly. "He was showing love through work." Ryan smiled. "And now I understand." She handed him a letter she'd kept for decades, written days after Ryan's birth. "You're perfect," it read. "I'm terrified I'll fail you, but everything I build is for you." Ryan pressed the paper to his chest. His father's fears had become his own, but unlike his father, he wasn't alone. He had his mother, his sister, his daughter, his community. Together, they carried the torch forward. A year later, the Clean Water Initiative had delivered systems to 23 communities across 4 continents, giving clean water to over 15,000 people. In the warehouse, now vibrant with life, a plaque hung beside the drafting table. "In memory of Michael Thorne, engineer, dreamer, father. His designs changed the world. His son made sure the world knew." During the ceremony, Ryan stood with his daughter, Sophie, now old enough to understand. "Grandpa sounds like he was really smart," she whispered. Ryan smiled. "He was, and brave and stubborn, just like you'll be." When the crowd dispersed, Ryan sat alone at his father's workbench, his own journal beside the old one. He'd written his final entry for the year, 23 installations, 15,000 lives changed. The work continues, above H. Him hung 2 photos, one of his father holding him as a baby and one of him guiding Sophie's hands on a wrench. Generations bound by purpose, not blood alone. As the evening sun painted the warehouse gold, Ryan whispered, "We did it, Dad." And if you're listening to this right now, remember, legacies aren't built by fortune or fame. They're built by love, by integrity, and by the courage to finish what someone else started. If this story touched your heart, don't just scroll away. Leave a like, share it forward, and remind someone out there that it's never too late to build something that matters.